So I have perfected the Thundercage. I know I am much later to the party than most creators, but regardless, the Thundercage in my opinion is still the best mobbing weapon in the game by quite a large margin. And seeing that I got so many requests to actually make a perfected Thundercage build, I figured why not, let's do it. As I said a moment ago, it is by far the best mobbing weapon in the game and definitely worth a build. Let me show you how I made my perfected Thundercage build. Alright, so now we are on the build section and let's quickly go over it. I want to start off with the stats because stats is easy to go over. Ideally, you would want to go with firearm attack on that bonus fire versus legion. I just can't afford it, but this is generally what you want to aim for. Crit hit rate, crit hit damage, weak point damage, and then that firearm attack, not fire attack, sorry, and have that ideally. I think that's going to be the best bet for you. And then you could in theory go with like Colossus if you're using this as a bossing weapon. I wouldn't use it as a bossing weapon. I think it's a bad bossing weapon, but that could be what you would use. Quickly going over the basic effects and stats, has a pretty decent round of 26 round mag, 1.4 reload time is SMG, base crit of 20, a base crit damage multiplier of 2, which is actually really good for SMG. It has a 1.2 base weak point multiplier. It's not the best, but good. And then I like to look at move speed 600, which makes it a very fast weapon. Doesn't have the best range, but it's an SMG, so you kind of expect that. Those are the basic stats. Let's go over the unique effect. I'm sure you guys know this effect, but whenever you defeat an enemy, the defeated enemy will do like an electric charge, and that does a shockwave and AoE that deals a lot of damage. It's a mobbing weapon that you come to expect. Has a decent trigger rate. It has a good radius, and it does a ton of your firearm damage, which means if you build a lot of firearm damage into this weapon, you get a big burst of damage, and it's really good. I've only upgraded it once. We'll upgrade it later down the line, but this is the basic ability overcharge. Alright, so now we are on the builds, and I have 3 builds for you: a mobbing, a bossing, and a budget build, and we're going to go over each of them, and they will all be timestamped so you can like go through it if you want to just skip ahead. So, rifling reinforcement, it gives you firearm attack 32%, really nice. Action and reaction, firearm attack, but you get more recoil. It's not too big of a deal because the weapon is actually pretty stable for the most part. We don't build anything that like makes the recoil too much more crazier. Next we have better concentration. This is going to be a crit damage increaser, and we are a crit based build, so we want to get that extra damage. Better insight, because we want to get the base multiplier of the crit up, giving us some sizable crit. It's not the best mod in my opinion, but it's decent and you kind of need it. Next we have expanded weapon charge. This is going to give us almost 50% extra rounds of the base magazine, and is pretty integral when you're just like killing everything. Concentration priority, it's going to give you way more crit, but you lose a bit of reload. It's a very fast reload, so it doesn't matter. Next we have sweeping squad. What this does is whenever you defeat an enemy, you have a chance to get firearm attack. At the max level, it's 100% chance, and it'll last for 5 seconds. You can stack it up 3 times for 30% firearm attack, and this is pretty big because your explosion scales off of your firearm attack, and your weapon just gets kind of crazy. So it is really good to have this, and it's the best one because this is a good mobbing weapon. Next we have weak point sight. It is a okay weak point weapon. I don't love it, but it is a weak point weapon, so nonetheless you want to have it. It's 1.2 I think it is, so you should have it. Fire rate up, like I say in almost every video that I have this. The reason why we don't use any of the other ones is because they're really bad and they need to be reworked. 1% attack and you lose 5%. Fire rate is unethical and kind of stupid. These need to be buffed, but overall you want to get fire rate up. Always use it. Finally, we're using electric enhancement, and for those who do not know, this makes enemies weaker whenever you apply electric to your attack. Generally, people that should be using, or descendants that should be using this weapon, are not electric based in most cases because they don't really need it. So having this on there will actually make them like defensively weaker, and this is going to give you some extra damage to help you just kill things. This is what I found to be the best for the build. And I will quickly take them out so you guys can maybe screenshot the actual mod slots if you want to copy them. That's how I set it up. So yeah, let's move on to the bossing build. Now we are on the bossing build, and I want to be very clear. This is not a bossing weapon. You generally speaking should not do a bossing weapon. I don't think it's worth it. There are many other weapons in the game that are way better at bossing, and this is probably why you'll notice sometimes that you are lackluster when you're using this weapon, because it's not a bossing weapon. Go build the Enduring Legacy. I have a video on it. If you are insistent on making this a bossing weapon, this is how I would build it. Rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, concentration priority, better concentration, expanded weapon charge, better insight, weak point sight, fire rate up, and these are kind of the same ones you saw in the previous build. The difference is we're using weak point detection. Weak point detection will give you weak point damage because you're going to be shooting at the boss's weak point anyway, so you kind of need it, and this is the best slot we have available, and this is going to give you that weak point damage. Alternatively, you can go have aiming. This is another okay one. I don't like losing the accuracy, and I don't have the money to upgrade it, so that could be an alternative option because it does give a lot more weak point damage, but you do lose accuracy, so it can be a bit of a pain. But we're using weak point detection. And then for our X slot, because we have to use the X slot, I'm using sharp precision shot, and this will give you some fire rate up, this will give you some damage, some recoil, and it's okay. It's a decent option. You can use other things like I think firing fiesta can come here as well, but this is what I would use personally. And when you shoot the weapon in the bossing state, as you can see here, it's pretty okay. You know, it's not like amazing, but again, I don't really like using it as a bossing weapon because I just don't think it's a good bossing weapon. Finally, for our budget build, you will start off with 2 slots if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at this weapon at its base form since the launch of the game, so I have no clue what the 2 are. I'm pretty sure it's not these, and even if it was, you have one of every slot anyway. Multiple copies of them, so it's fine. It may be a C slot though, so don't quote me. Anyway, we have rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, because I think these are very integral for damage. I think better insight because you'll put 2 katas, and basically I think 2, maybe even 3 is budget for all things considered. I think 2 or 3 is budget, but let's go with the idea is 2. You'll put rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, concentration priority, and better insight. It just cover your bases, tons of damage, enable your crit damage. We'll get fire rate for the damage. This will be like a normal slot. It's a 12 cost, so like as you can see, we have a lot of points, but you would be like probably around here or less. If you energy activate it, you will be more than fine, which you should be able to afford. I think that counts towards the budget build. Energy activator and 2 kata, it's pretty damn budget in my opinion. And then fire rate up, and then I think sweeping squad is way too good to not have, because this is going to give you a pretty sizable damage increase for something you're already going to do. Again, this is a mobbing weapon anyway, so you don't really need like it to be perfect. You just need it to kill a little bit, and that's what I think would be a better budget build in my opinion. And there you have it. That is my perfected Thundercage build. I know I'm building this weapon a lot later than, probably most creators on the platform, but some of you guys did request that I build it, so I did want to build it for you guys. I still think it's a worthwhile build, especially if you're not like a bunny player, because I think it is by far the best mobbing weapon in the game, and having this weapon is going to help you quite a bit, especially if you're not really having a good mobbing Descendant, and this helps a lot. Anyways, if this video helped you out, leave me a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more of the first Descendant content. Leave me some suggestions on what weapon you'd like to see me master and or create next. And just like that guys, I'll see you in the next first Descendant video very soon.